the recent video that you posted on entrepreneurship where you said it can't be taught.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So I need to be smart about. I have to go look back in how we titled it, but I know what I said, which is it can be taught, but you can only go so far because of natural talent. You know, it's fun to have this conversation with you because you're such an athletic freak. You know, most people don't lay on the couch and say, I'm going to be on an Olympic team and then pull it off. You know, look, I think that I could play basketball every day of my life from the time I was 15 and put in 15 hours a day. And I think I'd be really good. I'd have a much better handle. I'd shoot better. Right. I would have been more competitive with you on the boat that day. Right. But would I have been good enough to be in the NBA? Absolutely not.
Maybe D3.
Maybe.
College.
Maybe. And I do think right now that everybody thinks they can be an entrepreneur. And so my point was it's much more talent than the current conversation. I don't think you can read the School of Greatness and my books and all these other books and watch Skillshares and watch Chase Jarvis and listen to Ferris and read Branson and even go to business school and have mentors and go to Y Combinator, and then all of a sudden, just because of that, you become a great entrepreneur. I think of it like the music industry. Think about all the kids that are born into, you know, your Clive Davis's grandson or your Whitney Houston's daughter, or you have nothing but access. You're in the studio all the time. You learn the business. But if you don't have the chops, if you don't have the vocals, you're only going to go so far.
Right. Same thing with football players, or like in athletics too. You see some children of former NBA or NFL stars who excel, but then others who don't do anything.
Here's the punchline. It's much more talent than people realize. I see it every day. And the video I made was like, look, you have to be okay that by pouring in 18 hours a day and learning everything might only allow you to build a business that makes $100,000 a year.
Right.
There is an absolute misconception that the American dream is entrepreneurship and everybody can do it. The difference between entrepreneurship and football is everybody who's listening right now or watching can start a business. Not everybody can go work out for the New York Yankees. There's a system. There's no system in place for entrepreneurship.
Anyone can do it.
That at 16 or 22 stops you and says, hey, man, you're going to lose a shitload of money and be miserable. And literally, I'll be honest with you. I'm starting this conversation for quite a noble reason. This is not me to impose my will and say, look how special I am. As a matter of fact, I'd rather think it's been the hard work than the talent. You know, I'd rather think it was something I did versus mom and dad had sex at the right moment. I'd much rather think that. The reason I'm going down this path is there's a recent phenomenon that's not being talked enough about in our culture, and specifically in our world, which is what failure is doing to the young men and women in our space. And, you know, we're sweeping under the rug a couple of the suicides in our space. We're sweeping under the rug the heavy depression and alcohol use. We're sweeping things under the rug. We want to show all the hoopla. I hate what's going on Instagram right now. Everybody living their fake life, putting up pictures of like baby giraffes and like hot chicks and $50,000 cash on a bed and a boat, and painting a lifestyle that is not realistic. And I want to have this conversation because I think that I have a big enough voice to start the conversation about, look, there is a level of talent here, and what we need to all be doing is figuring out what we're best at and going all in on that. And by the way, do you know how much more money the number 2, 7, 15, 44th person at Facebook has than you and I?
Billions.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit disappointed in a lot of ways. One, people that are bottom feeding and like signing up for every ebook and mastermind and course, and they're not talented enough, and they're chasing a lottery ticket, and they're going to get depressed and get sick. Or great kids that have tons of talent who would have been great number 4s and made tens of millions of dollars and had work-life balance, who are being pressured into becoming the next Mark Zuckerberg and are going to fail multiple times in a startup and not really start becoming that executive until they're 32, 33, 34, and learn some things but be behind the ball in a world that they could have been successful for. There's absolutely a ton of kids right now that would have been better off being kids that were in their 20s and 30s and the 80s and 90s, because they would have been consultants and COOs and CFOs and had an incredible life. And instead, they're only going to get really started at 32, 33, and they'll win a lot of experience and they'll have hopefully a lot of fun. But unfortunately, I know a lot of B's and I know a lot of 2s, and that's not for their makeup either. So for me, like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I've been, it's why I was failed school. It's why I sold baseball cards when I was 14. So for me, I'm okay with the failures, the losses along the way. It's my natural state. I just want people who are listening to find their natural state and not force into the current narrative.
So how does someone find out what they're best at? And what are you best at?
I'm best at selling. I'm best at using my words to make things happen, whether that's selling me, whether that's selling my agency, whether that's selling a bottle of wine, whether that's selling a book. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
I'm good at storytelling to make a transaction happen. How one finds it, I don't know. And I think about this a lot. I think about self-awareness. I think about EQ. I think about finding that. I've been talking more about finding the 5 people that are closest to you to tell you the truth. To tell
Have you done that?
Have I done it for myself or for other people?
Found 5 people that are...
I don't feel like I needed it, but I could be wrong. But I feel like the truth with me, especially meditation's about to explode, right? I'm probably saying this.
It's already been exploding. Yeah.
But it's about to become Starbucks and SoulCycle. And I'm probably saying this just because I need a recall in 3 years to say I told you so. So you're going to get some traffic to this episode from me in 4 years. Meditation is going to go very mainstream, right? Like everybody will go to meditation.
There's already a studio here in LA that's
of course,
just
LA,
meditation.
New York, it's just happening. It's 4 years from now, it will be just like working out.
Headspace, all these
100%. 100%. Where was it going? Oh, sorry. I'm scared to get into it because I'm so goddamn happy that I'm scared that if I meditate, it's going to open up another path in my brain that may lead to something that isn't what I have right now. That's why I'm also not trying to explore more self-awareness.
Give me feedback.
I don't need it. Yeah. Like, I'm so goddamn happy. I'm scared to fuck with it.
You don't want to mess with it. Yeah, it's already working for you. So let's talk about work-life balance, because you mentioned that with the 2s and the B's and everything. A bunch of people ask this question. I'll just kind of paraphrase it. And I'm sure you've been answering this a lot, but how does work-life balance work for you? And essentially, when you're doing all these daily V's now from 5 a.m. working out till 12:30 a.m., 15, 20-hour days.
This daily V vlog has been an interesting thing in my life for 2 reasons. Number one, the ego part of me. I'm so fucking pumped that I'm finally establishing that nobody's outworking me. Like people like you.
Because you're documenting it now.
People like you, like people that were either in my inner circle or really knew who I was or have spent some time with me. Because you would email Matt DeMeo or Nate back in the day or Phil Toronto, and they would say, cool, can you meet from 11:15 to 11:19 on what, And so my friends or people that I was closer to or business associates, they kind of over the last 4 or 5 years figured it out. I'm so pumped that the market is starting to understand. On the flip side, it has brought up a lot of questions about my work-life balance, because what's happened in parallel is like, wait a minute. This guy really is working 6 to 11:30 every day. When the hell does he have time for his family? I couldn't do that. This seems extreme. Is this healthy? Like, how does this end up? Twofold. Number one, my work-life balance is the way everyone's work-life balance is, which is everybody has their own version. I feel like it's very similar to parenting. I would never give people parenting advice. You can see in my book, I talk about parenting, but I hedge every answer, which is like, you do you. By the way, this is what I'm doing. Right. You do you. Like, the thought of telling people how to parent is insane. You have no context. Listen, I have empathy that most people don't have context for Lizzie and I's relationship. They don't understand her independence. They don't understand that she also is emphatic that she and the kids are not involved in any of my public domain. So, if you watch
you don't talk about
that's
them
right. If you watch Snap and my Snapchat stories and my Daily V carefully, and by the way, I recommend this for nobody because nobody should watch me that carefully, but you can see where there's hours of blocks of time. There is nothing going on the weekends. There's these, I was thinking about the other day, 2 Fridays ago, I was gone at noon with the kids and spending a ton of time all day. We went away together a little bit. There was no content, but because of that, I'm painting a picture. I'm controlling my story.
You're never showing that you're with your family,
I'm not showing it, and I'd love to in some ways because I think it'd be cool to document it for the kids one day. But I don't want to make the decision for them to be public. And so, look, my work-life balance is more extreme than 99% of people. I recognize that for now, and that's the important part. Right. For now, It's working for my wife and I and family. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't even want it. My kids are 6 and 3 now. They're starting to become real.
6 and 3, man. I remember when the first one was born.
Mm-hmm. We're getting old, brother.
It's crazy.
I don't want to miss stuff. I haven't. Anytime I'm in New York, I'm not missing any recital or things of that nature. But if there's one today, I'm missing it. I'm in LA, right? And it's a constant process. But yes, I'm working a lot.
What would you say percentage-wise of spending time with family every week versus work is? 80-20?
Let's see. So 2 days a week is of 7, so that's 30. I mean, it's probably 65, 35, 70, 30 work.
Yeah.
But that's only because I'm all in on the weekends. And over this next kind of 6-7 week period, because I'm doing a lot of stuff for the book, there's some Saturdays that I'll miss here and there. So, it can be 60, it could be 70, 30, 75, 25 during a normal week. But I'm also taking about 6 to 7 weeks vacation.
Right.
That's 100% family. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
2 weeks in August, 2 weeks in December when everybody's shut down.
Sure.
And then usually a week in March for spring break and a week in June or July. Right. So I'm taking a lot more vacation time than I used to. I'm up from 2 weeks. So listen, I'm like everybody who's listening right now. I'm doing the best that I can.
Yeah.
I need everybody to understand this. If I didn't do what came naturally to me, there'd be much bigger problems.
You'd be miserable.
That's right.
You'd be miserable. You'd be thinking you wouldn't be present when you're there with your family either, probably.
And I challenge a lot of people to understand that when they're there with their family, a lot of you are coming home at 5 o'clock, but you're also going to the bowling team. You're also playing Halo. You're also watching TV. You're watching TV and the kids are on the iPad. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to do is maximize the attention time when I'm there, not only just the physical time. And so, look, I don't think I'm crushing it. I don't think I'm right for most people. I think I'm very affected by the fact that my dad wasn't around until I was 14, and that meant I worked at the store and got to see him. So I lived in an extreme work-life balance scenario that I grew up with, which probably gives me comfort. I was talking to one of my buddies whose dad was home at 5 o'clock every night, and it's foreign to him. And so I have empathy for that. My wife also grew up with a dad that was constantly away and was building his career, so she's used to it. So I know that we mix that way. That works. If I married a woman whose dad was home at 5, I'm sure there'd be more tension. If I had a dad that was home at 5 every day, or mom, if they were working, then I'm sure I wouldn't be comfortable with it. But I think the circumstances of our lives have created our situation, and I think that we're dramatically happier than a lot of people that spend 80% of their time together. Right. And so, you fight for it.
Mm-hmm. And when you're with your family, are you ever on your phone? Are you thinking about business, or do you allow yourself to shut off?
I mean, I'm desperately trying for 100% attention.
Yeah.
I'm probably achieving 80.
Yeah.
Which is better than 50, which is where I was probably 3 years ago.
Right.
So chipping away, and on vacation, I've gotten to 100,
which
is why those have become very special things. We also bought a summer home now, and I'm hoping that I can hack into more time that way.
Is that upstate New York or something?
In the Hamptons.
Oh, nice.
And so it's a little bougie, but it's super fucking cliche. But that's a great story.
Yeah.
We tried not to buy in the Hamptons because I was worried that I'd be in the work zone. Last year, we went on a kind of 4-year tour, different places. Last year, first day, we're in the Hamptons. First day, I walk to the market with my little guy. I run into the guy that runs Pinterest in New York. 4-minute conversation leads to business. It was only 4 minutes. I walk back home and I go to Lizzie, let's buy here. And because it's, and that whole summer, I probably spent 6% of my time on work, a couple of breakfasts, a couple of, dinner, a couple things. So I'll call that a 50-50, but I'd call 6% as the net score, and I needed that 6%. You can't, look, my friends, you can't run away from who you are. You can try to mold yourself into a politically correct world, and luckily we're way beyond, well, not way beyond, this is unfair, but I'm glad that the world is now focusing on other variables. We'll always have race and religion and sexism and those things, but now we're leveling up even into what's a modern dad and what fit work-life balance and things of that nature. Look, I know the optics. I know I'm living a public persona. I know I have to answer these questions. Look how many work-life questions you got. I'd like to be politically correct. I'd like to be perfect. I'd like to make it easy on myself to not have to deal with the stress of the optics on the outside. Here is the punchline problem. You can't run away from who you are. You can't. And so I'm fucking ambitious. I want it. And I want it real bad.
Why?
I'm not sure. I was born an immigrant. I'm not super tall. I like losing. I like what happens to my testosterone and my energy when I take a loss. It gets me more motivated.
We should play ping pong more often.
I love my legacy. You know, I want to be remembered as a good dude and somebody who did it right. I feel the pressure of my talent. I know I have something, and I feel like equal gratitude as I do pressure to execute against it. I'm aware. I'm aware that I'm different, and it would be such a. Look, I lived 22 to 30 building a big business, but I wasn't doing outrageously special things, and I felt it. I knew it.
You're consistently growing something.
I was building a business. I'm super proud of that. I'm pumped that I didn't come out and become a pundit and a talking head at 22 and all these 18-year-old life coaches on Instagram. Like, I'm not into that. So I'm glad I had that meat and potatoes to come out and say, look, I built this. This had nothing to do with books or speeches or personal brand. This was a business I built. I was 32 years old before I said anything about business to the world. I have a lot of pride in that. At the same token, while I was in it, I knew there was more. I knew there was this Gary Vee thing. I knew that there was bigger and better and all-time stuff. And so, you know, it's a seesaw of trying to find your cadence. And I think one of the things that I would tell a lot of people who are listening, and I know you have a young crew, I see a lot of, you know, and when I say young, I mean under 40. It's stunning. And not, look, I'm 40. You could be 46. And it's a mindset. But here's where I'm going with it. It's stunning how much time you have to pull it off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When were you on the couch in your sister's? How old?
24.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of 24-year-olds listening right now.
And I had nothing, you know.
Right, and they're confused. They're like, well, you know, I need to do it and this and that. And so I think that I think I love life, and I think that I don't want to die. And I think the only way that I know how not to die is to leave a big-time legacy.
This is interesting. Jarek Robbins, I think
Yes.
you know, he said, but what if he got to the end of the journey in life and on the very last day figured out he was dead wrong? It just makes you put things in perspective. Truth is, no one actually knows. I'd be curious to hear what his response is.
It's a great question. I will tell you that if my DNA continues to go the way it goes, I'm not capable of crying about spilled milk. And if I'm laying on my deathbed one day to go and I say, fuck, you know, I should have been a stay-at-home dad, or shit, I should have invested in Uber in the angel round when I said no.
Did you have 2 opportunities for that?
Let's not talk about it. And you know, what are those things? I got a picture to show you. Check out this picture of Travis at the Super Bowl with Woody Johnson.
Let's see, Travis who?
Travis Kalkin, founder, the CEO of Uber.
Gotcha.
One of my best buds. There's a picture of him with Woody Johnson, and it says, "You're out of the deal."
Oh, man.
And the scary part is my homie Travis can fucking actually buy the jets.
Wow.
So that kind of shit motivates me, right?
Yeah.
Travis is my buddy. In Crush It, Travis is like traveling around with me to my keynotes, just hanging out.
Really?
In between his gigs, angel investing, right? And now he's like one of the 4 or 5 most prominent technology CEOs and one of the wealthiest on paper.
Crazy. What's he worth now? Well, what's Uber?
80 billion. So
80
he's
billion.
probably, I mean, he's got to be 10, 12, 7, 9. I mean, something just mind-boggling. And, you know, that's motivating. This is my homie who, you know, who I acknowledge and Crush It. The only person I acknowledge besides my family.
Wow.
And asked me to invest in this company, and I'm an investor, and I passed twice an angel at $4 million.
Why?
Stupid stuff. I just bought a new apartment. I was super not liquid. I was using my own money back then, and Travis and Garrett, who found it, weren't going to run it. And I was doing a lot of side projects that weren't working at the time. And so just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like I just missed it. Anyway, I'm just living life like everybody else.